Now, the advent of mobile telephony in Nigeria and its fast development and acceptance and the recognition of person-to-person payments as a viable approach for financial inclusion have made it critical to use the mobile channels to drive financial inclusion amongst the unbanked. Financial inclusion continues to gain traction amongst policymakers, scholars, and development organizations all around the world. Its significance stems from the potential it presents as a vehicle for economic growth, notably in terms of poverty reduction, job creation, wealth creation, and increasing welfare and overall living standards. In accordance with the mandate to promote a sound financial system in Nigeria, the establishment of an efficient and effective trading arrangement, including electronic payment systems, the Central Bank of Nigeria recently released a regulatory framework for mobile money services, indicating that it will not adopt the model in which telecommunications companies are the drivers. According to the framework, CBN will serve as the lead initiator, making it have full control of monetary policy operations, minimize risk, and ensure that the offerings of financial services are driven by organizations that have been licensed by the CBN to do so. The Apex Bank, however, stated that the telecommunications companies still play the important role of providing infrastructure to drive the exchange of messages from messages for mobile money payments or mobile payments. To give more insight into this, I introduced him earlier. He's joining us via Zoom. He's the chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, Alton, Mr. Gbenga Adebayo. Good afternoon, Mr. Adebayo. Thank you very much for your time on the show.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Yes, I would like, although I read your reaction, but I would like you to put it to us straight, how you react to this regulatory framework being introduced by the central bank with regards to mobile money services in Nigeria. Tell us how this comes to you.
Well, as an industry and as members of the digital ecosystem, we recognize the role of the CBN in terms of monetary policy. And also, we also recognize our role as infrastructure providers in order to drive mobile services and as well as financial inclusion. And we are of the view that considering the mileage of telecom services, considering the coverage, considering the infrastructure that was deployed across the country, considering the ease of access to mobile services, we do believe that it's important that mobile operators play a leading role in mobile financial inclusion. However, the CBN of Nigeria has said that they want to be the drivers of the leaders in the mobile money sector. And we're saying all well and good. However, we believe that the inclusion of mobile operators in this regard will enable better coverage, will provide better access, and as well as will provide better connectivity for everyone. Because today you have more people in actual fact banking on the telephones than having to do physical transaction at the banking halls. So we have the view that operators has to play a role in this. The CBN has said as a regulator that they do not want another sector to lead it, rather prefer the CBN to lead this, where we have no objections to that, but we're saying that the more the merrier, and we do believe that if we are really talking about financial inclusion to cover the last miles of this country, it's important that mobile operators are part of the game.
Financial inclusion remains very key, and we always hear figures of how many percent is being covered, so percent being covered by the Central Bank of Nigeria. As a player in the digital space, like you are rightly said, and you are, what do you make of that process, and how well are we doing, particularly with regards to those in the hinterlands where we need to actually make them get included?
The fact remains that you can't have financial inclusion, mobile financial inclusions, without relying on mobile communication services. You can't have that. Today, mobile services remains the most present, the most available in all parts of the country. There is no way you can talk about financial inclusion, and in particular, covering the last mile, reaching to those people who are unreachable without reliance or dependence on communication services. So we are saying that in this regard, if we really look at penetration at high speed and within short period of time, it's very important that the operators are allowed to play a role in this. We are aware that some licenses have been granted, the PSB license have been granted to some operators. We believe that more should be included for reasons of having a better coverage and all of that. And we do believe that there should be the handshake between the CBN as the monetary regulator and the NCC as our industry regulator. Reason being that there is really no way today you have more people relying on mobile services than they do rely on physical transaction at the banks. And for us to have what we're talking about in terms of actually reaching the unbanked, we believe that telephone service is actually the best means of access to do so.
Reading through or preparing for this interview, we've even before now we've talked about likes of M-Pesa, Safaricom, and talking about the goodies and the positives from that end. Now, what is happening to us here? What challenges do we have? How well can we do better than what we are doing? Is it funding? Is it infrastructure? What do we need? Is it government policies? What more can we do so that we can also record all of the positives that we hear from countries like this and this very kind of services?
Well, it's a combination of many things. It's a combination of many things. And when you talk about what happens in other jurisdictions, we may not be comparing apple for apple. In the first instance, those economies are not the same size of economy as we have in Nigeria. In the second instance, in terms of population, those countries do not have the kind of population that we have. In terms of scale of market, even in terms of digital penetration, those economies do not have the same scale as we do have. And therefore, we may not be right to think that a replica of what obtains in those jurisdictions would be appropriate for us in Nigeria. You've spoken about M-Pesa, which is what obtains in Kenya. But you say that's a market where mobile money services is being driven largely by the mobile operators. In our case, our financial sector regulator has said that it will be driven by them. And so we have to queue behind them and follow their rules and their guidelines. And therefore, to compare our economy with that of Kenya, both in terms of size, in terms of population, in terms of people, we may not really be right. And it should be like walking from question to answer, or from answer to question. If we want to take a copy of that and put it in here for operations, I would rather say we have to, as a people, develop a generic method that will work for us as a country, not necessarily to do it cut and paste from what obtained in other jurisdiction. Considering that we are dealing with a different social culture, we're dealing with a different geopolitical environment, we're also dealing with a different side of the economy entirely. And so in terms of infrastructure, we do have infrastructure to do that, to cover the country. As you know today, mobile services are about the most available across the country. Access to telecom services has become even easier than access to water and toilet in some cases, as we have heard and read according to statistics. But the fact remains that for you to actually have penetration that we are talking about, definitely you will require mobile services. In terms of regulation, I would not insist that what obtains in other jurisdictions should be brought to bear here. I would rather say we need to develop our own generic method, which works for us, which should work for us, considering our culture, considering our size, considering our market, and all of that. And rightly so, I think we are slow, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. In a matter of time, we'll get there. We appear to be late starters, but certainly we are heading in the right direction in this regard.
With our discussion really getting more interesting. Let's look at this NCC thing. We talked about it the last time, talking about the new charge for mobile banking services, and it was ₦6.98. But lately, personally, I've not been seeing that request when I want to make transactions. What's happening with regards to this? And are your members still being owed? There is some money, some outstanding payments before now.
Well, unfortunately, the debt is still there, and the profile of the debt is growing. We are quite concerned, but our regulator NCC has intervened in this matter. We are also aware that meetings are being held at high level between the two regulators, that's NCC and CBA, and we do hope that this issue of USSD debt will be resolved. It's not a debt that will go away. It's a conversation that we need to continue to have, and we think that it is morally wrong for the banks to receive money for USSD services and refuse to pay the telecom operators who actually provide the infrastructure to deliver the service. And therefore, it's a moral burden on the bank. They have to pay this debt. It's a debt that will not go away. We can't forgive it. We can't ignore it because it's a service for which it has cost us money to deliver, and a service for which the banks have earned money. So we think that the issue of USSD charge should be rediscussed again and again, and parties have to come around the table to discuss on how best it is to resolve this matter. Certainly, the debt is still there, the profile is going, and it's not going to go away unless we do something about it. We hope that we will not come to a time where operators will decide to withdraw the service from the banks. Otherwise, that will make a mess of our entire financial inclusion scheme.
That won't be a good one. What are the NIN and SIM registration issues? Yes, you also play a very important role as telecom operators in this. We've had extensions, and we've been having extensions and more extensions. So what's the update with regard to you, your association, the NCC? How well are we also doing with regards to this registration scheme?
We think that the numbers are looking up. When we started, enrollment was quite low. I mean, when the first timeline was given at the end of December last year and early part of this year, now the uptake is quite good, it's significant. The numbers are in the region of about 60 million enrollments. If you do an average of 3 to 4 SIM cards per enrollee, that translates to a number in the region of about 200 and plus. Looking at that, it means that if we say we have already about 200 million SIM cards identifiable on the network, we think that's a significant jump from where we started. We therefore must commend Nigerians for embracing the call by government to have their name linked up to their SIM card. It's a lot of work in progress. As you may know, now mobile operators are also licensed to enroll our citizens for the NIN. We believe that entry will be better, access will be better. And now that we have an extension till at the end of October thereabout, we believe that within this period, we should have significant improvement in the number of enrollment. After that will be the integration, having to integrate systems together. But the first month that we are now, I think numbers are looking good. The uptake is good. Numbers are impressive, so to say. We continue to appeal to Nigerians to embrace this. Those who have not enrolled, please visit an enrollment center to enroll. Those who have not linked their name with their SIM card, please visit your operator center to have that done. And we are hopeful that by the end of the year, we will have a situation where just walk in, enroll, and leave. So to give a straight answer to your question, we think the numbers are looking up. We think the data is good. Compared with where we were at the beginning of the year. But we continue to appeal to the public to continue to do what they have to do by way of getting their NIN and getting integrated with their SIM card. Certainly, we cannot have a country where we do not have a reliable national database. And we think that with the integration of NIN and SIM, it will help us at the end of the day to have a credible and reliable national database, which will be to the best interest of all of us.
Mr. Gbenga, before I let you go, many times we talk very much about the challenges. Yes, Nigerians and even journalists like us, we like to always identify the challenges. But what more can be done to improve capacity of telcos to enable them at least do better? And yes, they're not doing badly. Of course, we agree they are not doing badly at all. But how can we improve capacity so that we can always compare ourselves with international standards?
We need more investment in the sector. There is no doubt that telecom is capital intensive. And because we're in the technology industry, you invest in new hardware and software today, new patches developed by tomorrow. So you need to continue to invest and to reinvest and to reinvest. And therefore, we need more investment in the industry. We need more access to funds. Unfortunately, the banks are not able to grant long-term loans to operators, and so it's a bit difficult for operators to actually secure long-term funding from most of the banks, particularly the Tier 2 and Tier 3 operators. So that remains a big challenge. I've said before that in times past, because of the availability of capacity at our shores, it's cheaper to buy bandwidth sometimes from between London and Lagos than it is to buy between Lagos and some part of the country, because we do not have the terrestrial infrastructure across the country. And therefore, a lot needs more to be done in terms of bringing capacity to bear. For that to happen, we need to have more investment in the sector. Our networks are still being built. We are not yet fully consolidated, and there is therefore a lot more work to be done. So to answer your question, what we need to do to bring more capacity to bear is to do more investment. We need to have more investment. Government must continue to be receptive of investors. We must continue to introduce new systems and softwares and hardwares that will require excessive investment in the sector. The players need to have access to funding and all of that. And so that's just what we have to do. That's what we have to do.
All right, there, brilliantly said there. You've heard from Mr. Gbenga Adebayo. He's the chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria. Thank you very much for spending your afternoon with us. We really appreciate this. We don't take it for granted. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.